Have you ever felt as though you're on a great, turning wheel, passing through the same familiar landscapes of joy and sorrow, again and again? What if this feeling isn't just your imagination, but a glimpse into a profound, ancient truth about the very nature of our existence? Intro Hook 2. What if there was a way to understand this endless cycle, this cosmic repetition, and more importantly, what if there was a way to gracefully, peacefully step off this wheel and find a lasting peace that transcends the constant ups and downs of life? Intro Hook 3. Today, we are going to explore the profound Buddhist concept of Samsara, the great wheel of rebirth. We will journey together to uncover not just what it is, but the secrets to liberating ourselves from its endless turning. This, my friends, might just be the key you've been searching for. Hello, fellow truth seekers, and welcome. In our last exploration, we delved into the intricate workings of karma and how our actions meticulously shape our lives. If you haven't had a chance to watch that yet, I encourage you to check it out after this one. As promised, today we are diving even deeper into the heart of Buddhist philosophy to tackle the profound and often misunderstood concept of samsara, the great, continuous cycle of rebirth. Imagine, if you will, a vast, magnificent wheel turning endlessly, silently, through the great expanse of time. With each rotation, each passing spoke, a different life is lived, a new story unfolds. We, as conscious beings, find ourselves reborn on this wheel again and again, experiencing the breathtaking highs and the heart-wrenching lows, the fleeting joys and the persistent sorrows of countless forms of existence. But what if there was a way to gently, consciously step off this ever-turning wheel? What if it were possible to find a lasting, unshakable peace and a happiness that doesn't depend on the constant rise and fall of life's circumstances? That is precisely where the timeless wisdom of samsara comes in. Understanding this concept is like being handed a sacred key, a key that has the power to unlock the door to true, profound liberation. It's a concept that goes far beyond the simple idea of reincarnation, revealing instead the intricate, interconnected web of cause and effect that gently, yet powerfully, binds us to this cycle of rebirth. So, come along with me now on this journey of discovery, as we explore the profound insights that the Buddha, in his infinite compassion, shared with the world. Let's unravel the mysteries of samsara together and discover the ancient, time-honored way to ultimate liberation. Now, let's jump into the very heart of the matter. What exactly is samsara? In the simplest of terms, samsara refers to the continuous, often exhausting, cycle of birth, death, and rebirth that all unenlightened beings go through. According to the deep wisdom of Buddhist teachings, it is an endless journey through the various realms of existence, a journey that is powerfully, yet often unconsciously, driven by our karma, our past actions and intentions, and by our unresolved desires and attachments. In Buddhism, reincarnation is the foundational belief that after our physical death, a being's stream of consciousness, not a fixed and unchanging soul, is reborn into a new body, a new life. This intricate process is repeated over and over and over again, with each new life being profoundly influenced and conditioned by the accumulated karma of the previous life. This continuous, self-perpetuating cycle of death and rebirth is what is known as samsara. The suffering of this cycle is a central theme in Buddhist teachings. Each and every time a being is reborn, they are, by the very nature of existence, subject to the inherent suffering of that life, such as the trauma of birth, the pains of aging, the frailties of sickness, and the inevitability of death, even in the higher, celestial realms, where beings might experience the immense, almost unimaginable pleasures and incredibly long lifespans. Suffering is still subtly, yet persistently, present in the form of impermanence and the unavoidable reality of eventual change. In the lower realms, of course, suffering is much more apparent, with beings experiencing intense physical and emotional pain, gnawing hunger, paralyzing fear, and many other forms of deep distress. The Buddha taught that as long as we remain unknowingly trapped within the turning wheel of samsara, we will continue to experience suffering in one form or another, regardless of which realm we are born into. However, samsara is more than just the mechanics of reincarnation. It encompasses the entire cycle of existence, from the first breath of birth to the final sigh of death, and all the myriad joys, sorrows, and fleeting experiences in between. It is the endless, often wearying, journey through the various realms of existence, a journey perpetually fueled by our karma and our unresolved, grasping desires and aversions. Imagine yourself, if you will, as a weary traveler, moving from one end to the next, one lifetime to the next, always carrying the heavy, invisible baggage of your past actions and unresolved emotional experiences with you. Each new birth is like a fresh start, yes, but it's also a start that is deeply influenced and conditioned by the karmic seeds you've planted in your previous lives. This cycle continues, almost indefinitely, with beings rising and falling through the different realms of existence, experiencing the full, vast spectrum of joys and sorrows that life has to offer. In traditional Buddhist cosmology, there are 6 main realms that beings can be reborn into within the cycle of samsara. These include the blissful God realm, the powerful demigod realm, the precious human realm, the instinct-driven animal realm, the tormented hungry ghost realm, and the intensely painful hell realm. Each of these realms is characterized by a specific, predominant type of suffering or happiness, and the actions we take, the intentions we cultivate in our current life, can profoundly determine which realm we will be reborn into next. But here's the crucial point: no matter which realm we might find ourselves in, the ultimate experience of samsara, in the long run, invariably leads to a deep sense of dissatisfaction, or dukkha. Even the gods, who enjoy immense pleasures and what seem like eternal lifespans, are not immune to the universal law of impermanence, of change, and of eventual death. They, too, will one day fall from their lofty, celestial positions and be reborn into a lower, more challenging realm. This is precisely why the Buddha told that true, lasting happiness and genuine, Unshakable liberation can never, ever be found within the confines of samsara itself. So, if samsara is this endless, often painful, cycle of suffering, what is it that keeps us so tightly trapped within it? The answer, according to the Buddha, lies in the very fabric of our unawakened being. It lies within our own minds, in three powerful, yet subtle, forces known as the three poisons. These three poisons are the very root causes that keep us bound to the cycle of samsara. And truly understanding him is the absolute key to beginning the journey of breaking free from the great wheel of rebirth. As the Buddha so wisely said, the root of all suffering is attachment. First, let's talk about ignorance. This isn't just a simple lack of knowledge or information, like not knowing a historical fact. In Buddhism, ignorance, or avidya, refers to a profound, fundamental misunderstanding of the true nature of reality. It's the persistent, often unconscious, belief that we are a permanent, unchanging, separate self. It is the deep-seated, yet ultimately mistaken, belief that the things, people, and experiences we desire will, if we can just obtain them, bring us lasting, permanent happiness. But the profound truth, as the Buddha taught, is that everything in this phenomenal world is impermanent and constantly subject to change. By failing to recognize this fundamental truth, by constantly chasing after permanence in an impermanent world, we unknowingly, yet inevitably, set ourselves up for recurring suffering and disappointment. Next, we have attachment. This is the intense craving, the thirsty grasping, the insatiable desire that arises whenever we encounter something we find pleasant or enjoyable. Whether it's a beautiful material object, a delightful sensory experience, a feeling of success, or even another person, we instinctively grasp at it, desperately hoping to make it a permanent, unchanging part of our lives. But, as we've just learned, nothing in this world truly lasts forever. And so, when the object of our attachment inevitably changes, fades, or disappears, we are invariably left with a painful sense of loss, grief, and deep dissatisfaction. Finally, there's aversion, which is simply the flip side of the coin of attachment. This is the anger, the hatred, the fear, or the repulsion we feel towards anything we deem to be unpleasant or uncomfortable. We instinctively try to push these unwanted experiences away from us, to build walls against them, but in doing so, we often, paradoxically, create even more suffering for ourselves. We get caught up in endless, draining cycles of negative emotions and reactive behaviors, which only serve to reinforce our painful sense of separation, frustration, and dissatisfaction. Together, these three poisons, ignorance, attachment, and aversion, create an intricate, sticky web of craving and delusion that keeps us seemingly hopelessly trapped in the cycle of samsara. We endlessly chase after the things we desire. We desperately flee from the things we dislike. And all the while, we remain largely ignorant of the true, impermanent, and interconnected nature of reality. As the result, we continue to create karma, both positive and negative, which acts as the very fuel that propels us, lifetime after lifetime, enter future rebirths, keeping the great wheel turning. But here is the most beautiful, most hopeful part of this entire teaching. The Buddha didn't just diagnose the problem, he also, with his boundless compassion, provided a clear, practical, and profound solution by diligently following the path he so carefully laid out for us, the Noble Eightfold Path. We can begin the sacred, liberating process of freeing ourselves from this complex, self-perpetuating cycle of samsara, and begin to move, step by steady step, towards true, lasting freedom and unshakable happiness. This path, this sacred curriculum for liberation, involves the cultivation of right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. By patiently, diligently cultivating these enlightened qualities and profound insights in our daily lives, we can begin to see through the pervasive illusion of the separate self and the inherent dissatisfaction of a life lived in samsara. We can learn to gently let go of our attachments, to compassionately transform our aversions, and to live with ever-increasing wisdom and compassion. And ultimately, we can break free from the cycle of rebirth altogether, attaining the supreme, unshakable happiness and profound peace of nirvana. But the journey to liberation, my friends, is not always an easy one. It requires our dedication, our discipline, and a profound willingness to courageously confront the very deepest, most hidden parts of ourselves. Samsara is driven by our own ignorance, our own attachments, our own aversions. But where, precisely, do these poisons truly come from? And how, exactly, does our own mind create the very karma that keeps this great wheel spinning? That is the deeper journey we will embark upon. Right after this, of course, we will continue this profound journey right where we left off. Page 1 set the stage beautifully, introducing us to the vast, turning wheel of samsara and the three poisons that keep us bound to it. We ended with the promise of a solution, a path to liberation. So, we've come to understand this great, turning wheel of samsara, endlessly powered by the subtle, yet potent, inner poisons of ignorance, attachment, and aversion. We see how these forces create the very karma that keeps us bound to the cycle of suffering. But now, we must ask, what are the true, tangible consequences of remaining trapped in this cycle? What happens, not just to us but to the world around us, when we continue to spin, unaware, upon this wheel? Perhaps the most obvious and intimate consequence of being ensnared in samsara is the persistent, low-grade struggle and a deep, underlying sense of unease that so often characterizes our daily lives. Even in those fleeting moments when we feel happy and content, isn't there often an underlying sense that something is still missing, that we're not quite whole, not truly at peace? We may frantically distract ourselves with an endless variety of worldly pleasures and ambitious pursuits. But deep down, in the quiet moments, we often know that these external things can never, ever truly, lastingly satisfy the deep yearning of our soul. This is because the very nature of samsara is one of impermanence and constant, unrelenting change. As the Buddha so wisely taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering, no matter how desperately we try to hold on to the things and the people we love, or how fiercely we push away the things we don't. We can never escape the fundamental truth that everything is constantly shifting, evolving, and ultimately dissolving. Our relationships, our possessions, our very own bodies and minds, all of these things are subject to the inexorable forces of time and change. And no amount of grasping, no amount of aversion can ever alter this fundamental truth. And yet, we keep trying, don't we? We keep clinging to the beautiful, yet painful, illusion of permanence, desperately hoping that somehow this time will be different. We build the very foundations of our lives around the frantic pursuit of stability and security, only to watch, time and again, as everything we've worked so hard for eventually crumbles away in the face of impermanence. This can be a deeply painful and profoundly disillusioning process, one that leaves us feeling lost, alone, and disconnected from the world around us. But the consequences of being trapped in samsara go far beyond just our own personal, internal suffering when we're caught up in that relentless cycle of craving and aversion. We often, knowingly or unknowingly, act in ways that cause harm, not only to ourselves but to others as well. We may lash out in anger when things don't go our way. We might withdraw into a cold shell of ourselves when we feel hurt or afraid. We may even engage in addictive or destructive behaviors, desperately hoping to find some kind of temporary escape from the ever-present pain of our own existence. And all of this, my friends, has ripple effects, powerful energetic consequences that extend far beyond our own individual lives. Our actions, our words, our very energy impacts the people around us, the communities we live in, and ultimately, the world as a whole. When we're trapped in the fog of samsara, we're simply not able to show up as our best, most compassionate, most awakened selves. We are unable to be of true service to others or to create the kind of positive, healing change that our world so desperately needs. But perhaps the most tragic consequence of all of being trapped in samsara is that it prevents us from realizing our own true nature, our own magnificent, innate potential. The Buddha taught that all beings, without a single exception, have within him the luminous capacity for awakening, for full liberation from the cycle of suffering and rebirth. We all have what is called Buddha nature, but when we're caught up in the powerful, convincing delusions of the separate self, we're simply not able to see this incredible potential, either within ourselves or in others. We remain stuck in a limited, distorted, and often painful view of reality, unable to experience the boundless freedom, the profound love, and the unshakable joy that is our true birthright. And so, we continue to wander, lifetime after lifetime, through the various realms of samsara, endlessly pushed and pulled by the powerful, often unseen, forces of our own ignorance and craving. But the beautiful, hopeful news is that we do not have to remain trapped in this cycle forever. The Buddha's teachings offer us a clear, compassionate, and time-tested path to liberation, a way to definitively break free from the binding chains of samsara and to finally realize our true potential as fully awakened, compassionate beings. This sacred path is known as the Noble Eightfold Path, and it consists of 8 key, interconnected components that, when practiced together, work to completely transform our minds, our hearts, and our very lives. As the Buddha taught, this is the direct path to true happiness and liberation. At its very core, the Noble Eightfold Path is about diligently, patiently developing wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness in all aspects of our lives. By consciously cultivating these beautiful qualities, we can begin to see through the pervasive illusions of the separate self and the inherent dissatisfaction of a life lived in samsara. We can begin to live in a way that is more gracefully, more harmoniously aligned with our true nature. One of the key, foundational aspects of the path is right view, which involves deeply understanding the 4 noble truths and the true nature of samsara. This core understanding helps us to clearly see the root causes of our own suffering and the direct, practical way to our freedom. From there, we can begin to cultivate right intention, which involves setting our minds firmly on the path of liberation and committing to a life of ever-increasing compassion, wisdom, and non-harming. This clear intention then becomes the rudder that guides all our actions and choices. As we continue on the path, we also work to develop right speech, right action, and right livelihood. This means speaking and acting in ways that are consistently honest, kind, and beneficial to ourselves and to all others, and choosing a way of life that does not cause unnecessary harm or suffering. At the same time, we cultivate right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. These beautiful meditative practices help us to develop greater awareness, unwavering focus, and profound resilience in the face of life's inevitable challenges, allowing us to meet each and every moment with greater clarity and compassion. Through this profound, gradual process of inner transformation, we slowly, gently begin to loosen the tight grip of samsara on our minds and on our hearts. We begin to experience the deeper, more abiding sense of peace, a more genuine contentment, and a more profound connection with the world around us. Will there be times when we feel stuck, confused, or overwhelmed? Of course. It can be tempting in those moments to fall back into our old, familiar patterns of grasping and aversion. But with consistent practice and gentle patience, we can learn to meet these challenges with ever greater skillfulness and grace. We can learn to see each moment, even the difficult ones, as a precious opportunity for growth and awakening. And as we do so, we may start to notice profound, beautiful shifts in the way we experience ourselves and the world. We may find that our relationships become more harmonious and fulfilling, that our work becomes a genuine source of joy and purpose, and that our lives, as a whole, feel more deeply aligned with our most cherished values and aspirations. And perhaps most importantly, we may begin to experience a true sense of liberation from the pervasive suffering and dissatisfaction of samsara, knowing that our true nature is something far deeper, far more profound than the fleeting, ever-changing fluctuations of the self. So remember always the consequences of being trapped in samsara, but also remember the boundless, luminous potential that lies right now within each and every one of us. As we come to the end of our exploration today, let us hold this truth in our hearts. Samsara, with all its suffering and dissatisfaction, is not a prison from which there is no escape. It is, rather, a grand, cosmic classroom, and the Buddha's timeless teachings are our curriculum for graduation. We've seen how our own ignorance, attachment, and aversion keep the wheel turning, creating not only our own suffering but also sending ripples of harm out into the world. But more importantly, we have discovered that there is a way out. The Noble Eightfold Path is not just a set of ancient rules. It is a living, breathing map to freedom, a practical guide available to each of us in every single moment. By cultivating wisdom, by practicing compassion, and by choosing mindfulness, we begin to untangle the knots of our own making. We start to see that our true nature is not bound to this endless cycle of ups and downs, but is, in fact, as vast, as peaceful, and as luminous as the clear, open sky. The journey is not always an easy one, but the rewards, a life of profound peace, deep purpose, and unshakable freedom, are immeasurable. If these profound teachings have resonated with you today, if you feel a stirring in your heart, a desire to step more fully onto this path of liberation, then we passionately, wholeheartedly invite you. Do not let this moment of inspiration fade. This is more than just a video. It's an invitation to begin the most important journey of your life. Subscribe now and become an essential, cherished member of our incredible community of spiritual seekers. We are a growing global family, dedicated to exploring these transformative teachings and supporting one another on the path to awakening. By subscribing, you are making a powerful, conscious declaration to yourself and to the universe. I am choosing freedom. I am choosing to awaken. Click that subscribe button with the full, heartfelt intention of your aspiring heart, and be absolutely certain to ring that powerful notification bell, because you won't want to miss a single one of our upcoming explorations into the profound wisdom that can liberate us all. And now, we would be so deeply honored to hear from you. Your journey, your voice, and your insights are what make this community so incredibly special. Please, share your own heartfelt reflections in the comments below. What part of this teaching on samsara resonated most with you? Or perhaps, simply write, I choose the path of liberation. To anchor your intention, let's create a powerful, collective wave of awakening together. Thank you, with our deepest gratitude, for joining us on this journey, and for your own dedication to the path of awakening. May you find the strength, the courage, and the inspiration you need to keep going, and may you, and all beings, ultimately realize the supreme goal of liberation from samsara. We look forward to seeing you in the next video.